Hosted by you/unconscious leak 85. A little backstory is needed, so please bear with me. Growing up, I, 27F, had a childhood friend, Angie, 27F, who was as close as a real sister. We spent entire weekends at each other's places, celebrated family events, etc., from age 6 until 18. I even lived at her place in second grade while my parents went through a nasty divorce. I learned to speak some Russian, as she is Russian, and she learned to speak some Spanish. Needless to say, her older brother and little sister were like family to me. During our teenage years, she had 2 male best friends, one of whom she started dating and another one, Nico, now 29M, who was also Russian, whom I started dating at 17. Growing up, I had issues with a heart condition. I won't bore you with the details, but I had to take a lot of meds. I started getting healthier from age 16. I didn't have to take them daily, only when my heart rate became irregular, at which point I had to take them immediately, as it would become extremely painful, my heart would cramp, and I would start to hyperventilate. All my friends knew this, Nico included, and knew that I would black out if my meds were taken with alcohol. I didn't smoke or drink much growing up as a result, since I was worried about my health and only drank at home or in a safe setting. The legal drinking age is 16 here, and I only drank wine or beer, if at all. I had my first time with Nico at 17, and when my parents stayed at a retreat 2 weeks later, he came over for a date night. I did drink 1 glass of wine, but later started having health issues, which resulted in me taking my meds and becoming unconscious. I was a bit sore the next morning but didn't think much of it. 2 weeks later, I informed Nico that I was late on my period, and he started to panic, confessing that he had intimacy with me while I was unconscious. We had done it before, so he didn't think much about it. Apparently, he didn't have a condom, but since I was on the pill, he figured it was alright, and he also didn't finish inside but in a tissue. I felt violated and disgusted with myself. I didn't know how to describe this and only told Angie about it. I was an utter mess for a few years and wasn't able to have intimacy again until 2 years later. I didn't remember any of it, but I was too ashamed to go to my mom or anyone else. I didn't think of it as great back then. I was too young to really understand what and how I was violated, and Angie told me it's alright, saying I should break up if I feel bad about it, but we were in a relationship and did have intimacy before. I broke up with him the following day, and apparently he cried about his broken heart to her. As Nico and Angie were close and spent a lot of time together, they started dating a few months later, and I had to see him every time I visited her. I told her I wasn't able to see him, but she didn't understand where I was coming from. The contact stopped, and we haven't texted or seen each other in years. I still followed her and her family and saw that her brother is expecting his first child. As I was extremely close with her family, I commented on the Instagram post, expressing my gratitude when he reached out to me. I missed his wedding, but he asked if I would be interested in joining the baby shower since it's been years and we were extremely close before. He told me I was like a third little sister. I just asked if Nico would be attending as well, since Angie and he have been dating for 9 years now, and he said yes. I didn't elaborate much, but I just expressed that I'd send a small present if he could give me his current address, but I wouldn't be attending. He kept pestering me about what exactly happened all those years ago and why I'm no longer in their lives. Angie told her family I wasn't able to see her with an ex of mine, but her brother thought there was more to it. So, I told him the truth about what happened back then. While I didn't know it at 17, I now know that it was grape, and I named it as such. I didn't receive any message back from him, but a few days later, Angie reached out to me, furious. Nico had planned to propose during the baby shower, but Angie's brother is now against it, having learned why I stopped contact. She loves Nico and will stay with him, but by doing so, her brother said she is no longer a part of his life, as he doesn't want his little baby girl in the same family as a rapist. Since then, I've been receiving messages from old high school acquaintances, telling me I should have ignored it and not told anyone. They say that since I didn't speak up back then, I lost the right to do so now, and I'm a horrible person for ruining someone's life over something he did 10 years ago when he himself was a child as well. Am I wrong for speaking up? Update 10 days later. First of all, I am immensely thankful to all the people who took the time not only to read through my story but also to comment. I read every single comment and tried to respond to as many as possible. It gave me a little bit of hope for compassion toward victims of rape, and also the courage not to cave to the backlash I received. Reading all the messages defending my choice to speak up made me realize how insecure I was about what I'm allowed to do and how much I was trying to make things right for other people instead of for myself, especially Nico and Angie. All of you are right. If Nico had changed, he would have apologized, reached out, or tried to make amends in some way, either when word got to him from his brother-in-law or at some earlier point in his life. My former best friend Angie should have been able to feel some compassion if she had any respect for me as a human being or for the time we spent together. Her reaction showed me that I shouldn't hesitate in my actions. I started therapy when I was 21 and thought I had moved on from the grape as best as I could, but I realized how ashamed I still am almost 10 years later about an incident that wasn't my fault at all. I was ashamed to speak up back then and afraid that the people around me would look at me differently. Somehow, I still felt bad about speaking up today, so I'm trying to own what happened to me now and not apologize for other people's behavior, especially since they don't even show me respect. Now, onto what happened. I archived every nasty message I received on WhatsApp so I wouldn't have to read them, but I kept them as proof in case I needed them later. Angie's mom called me the day after the incident, crying. I probably shouldn't have answered, but after 10 years of friendship, I saw her as an aunt, almost a second mom. She always joked that while her own children would run around the house doing whatever, I would always take the time to sit with her, have tea, and talk, showing her more love and time than her actual children. While she said she was sorry for what had happened and for what I went through as a child, she couldn't believe I would ruin Angie's happiness over something like that. With Angie's brother refusing to have Nico as part of the family and Angie standing by Nico's side, it's divided their family, and she is heartbroken. She has grown to love Nico like family and has only known him as a considerate young man, someone she believes will make her daughter happy. It wasn't nasty names or angry words, just a heartbroken mother who pretended to acknowledge my pain but ultimately saw the fault in me. Angie's mom tried to get me to apologize or to take it back, but I refused because I don't see the fault in myself. With everything that's happened, I believe Nico hasn't changed and is just hiding it better. He can see how people are standing by him and supporting his behavior, so he feels no need to change. And that's something I didn't want to enable. Angie's mom never once used the word grape, and I tried to correct her every time she spoke about it. I kept trying to name it for her to understand better, but she would just start sobbing more. It didn't make sense for us to continue the conversation. Angie's mom used to stay in contact with mine for some time, and she reached out to her after our talk. I was worried my mom would find out, given her more conservative background. We had a long conversation, and though I haven't seen her in person yet, she apologized for not being there for me or for not making me feel like I could talk to her. I tried to reassure her as best I could, but when she asked if my current partner knows I was used like that, I got angry. She was afraid my partner would leave me if he found out, implying that what happened made me less valuable or appealing. When she asked me to keep it a secret from our family abroad and back home, I hung up. She acted exactly the way I was afraid she would, as if it's something shameful. This was especially difficult because I'm trying my best to move away from the feeling of shame. She has since apologized, but it's clear that her view of me has changed. I'm not sure yet how to deal with that, but it's something to worry about in the coming weeks. As some of you suggested, I wrote to Angie's brother, Sven, again and apologized for the mess. I also said I'm glad it's out in the open and that I'm proud of him for defending his family. I asked if his old email is still working, as I planned to send a gift card. He didn't respond, but I got a message from his wife 2 days ago. She thanked me for speaking up and informing them about Nico. Apparently, there had been a few moments that made her uncomfortable, like some jokes Nico made, and in retrospect, she now understands why. Sven informed her as soon as he got my initial message, and since then, they have both seen Angie but not Nico. She refuses to be in the same room or house as him, and the same goes for their unborn daughter. Sven and Angie's mom have visited their place multiple times, begging them to forgive Nico. Sven has caved a little. Angie and Nico will get married, and Sven will attend, but his wife will not. Nico is allowed in the family but will have no contact with Sven's wife or daughter. These restrictions do not apply to Angie. Sven has been suffering, trying to ease his mother's worries, and is unable to take a stand to cut them out completely. The compromise he made was without his wife's approval, and she told me she's doing her best to cut them out of their lives indefinitely. She also mentioned wanting to move closer to her family and feels this might be the perfect opportunity, though she's unsure if she can follow through. She told me how terribly sorry she is for all the issues that have come my way and admitted it has been a lot for them to handle on their side as well. Sven knows it's not my fault, but he doesn't want contact. It's difficult for him to talk to or see my name because, even though he knows I'm not to blame, he still sees me as the bearer of bad news and the beginning of all this drama. His wife has told me several times that neither of them believes I'm the bad guy, they're just exhausted by everything, and it's been extremely hard on them. That's all that has happened so far. I'm frustrated with how everything turned out. It feels like Nico will just continue with his life without being remorseful. I didn't want him to suffer, but some part of me hoped for at least an apology for all the suffering I went through afterward. Now, I'm dealing with my mother's changed and shameful view of me, and even though I'm glad the truth is out, it's incredibly hard to stand by my choices. My partner and my best friends have been my rock throughout this ordeal. My best friend, in particular, has been enraged on my behalf, and I'm extremely grateful to have both of them by my side. Right now, I'm just emotionally drained, but I'm sure things will get better in a few weeks.